Hello and welcome to today's Automation Academy Mastering the Machine webinar for the 4th of November 2023. Today's topic was the Automation Direct Productivity PLC platform, in particular the Productivity 2000, where I did an unboxing and talked a little bit about the software. Hope you enjoy it. Good morning and welcome to webinar number 65. For the 4th of November 2023, and today's topic is going to be Automation Direct's Productivity 2000 PLC platform. And I actually bought one of these. I got the starter kit for the 2000, and I'm going to be taking it out of the box, showing you what the hardware looks like and going through the software a little bit. And hope you enjoy it. Before we go there, talk a little bit about the Automation Academy itself. The Automation Academy is a membership site that I started several years ago. It contains training videos for Allen-Bradley, Siemens, Beckhoff, Omron, and possibly soon for the Productivity 2000 platform. I like it pretty well so far. Do have some job and aptitude assistance, some tests you can take to see what you might be interested in doing as a career, hopefully in industrial automation. Lots of systems integration tips and videos and even more. We do have a library of training and technical documents. I'm always adding new documents to the library for download, PDFs, that sort of thing, training documents, some software. We do have a community with interest groups called IO Central, and we do have these regular Mastering the Machines webinars about every 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. I think this time it's been maybe even a little longer than that. But depending on my schedule, I try to do it every 2 to 3 weeks. It was named after this Mastering the Machine document that you can see up here in the upper left. If you are interested in machine building, you can download that at either one of these two websites, automationllc.com or automationprimer.com. So today's topic, Automation Direct's Productivity 2000. I've been interested in the productivity platform for quite a while, but really never had a chance to mess with it. Do have a friend of mine who's actually taken a short course on systems integration, getting started, wants to put together a project. And we kind of talked and decided to use this productivity platform for his PLC. Partially due to the fact that it's just fairly inexpensive way to get started. Looks like it's easy to program, and I really didn't know when I suggested it how easy it was going to be to program, but it turns out it really is. And again, I've gone off about Allen-Bradley and how expensive it is. One of the things that Automation Direct does on their website is kind of make fun of Allen-Bradley. They compare this platform, for instance, with a CompactLogix. And the CompactLogix system that they compare it with costs $9,000, and the productivity platform only cost a little over $1,000 for the equivalent. And they choose analog cards and CPUs and show the memory, all that sort of thing. Enter the software into the equation, which, by the way, is free. I'll be showing that a little bit and talking about how it works. And I don't know that it's quite as good as Allen-Bradley's Logix 5000. Logix is pretty awesome. And I haven't actually downloaded to it yet. I have been using the simulator, and so I don't know how communications works, but I assume it's going to be easier actually than RSLinx. Allen-Bradley, one of the things that they're worst at is communications, so I anticipate that to be pretty easy. This screen that you see here is kind of a splash screen of what you see when you go to automationdirect.com. So they not only sell PLCs, they sell HMIs and stack lights and push buttons and lots of different stuff, even extrusion and pneumatic components. I've used their extrusion now, and it compares favorably with 8020, a lot less expensive. They do have VFDs and motion control. Haven't messed with much of that. I have used their VFDs before. Pretty good stuff. So overall, it's a kind of a comprehensive website with fairly inexpensive products. The one difference that they would have with an Allen Bradley or a Siemens, somebody like that, they do not have on-site tech support. You will need to call them for your tech support, but I've had great experiences so far calling them for older PLC platform questions or VFD questions. We set up a big 75 horsepower, fairly big 75 horsepower VFD not too long ago, and talked to the tech support about some of the power components and things like that. They were super helpful. And they have a lot of online documentation for a lot of this stuff. And I've downloaded a lot of that and taken a look at it. I actually met Tim Homan back in 2014, went on a tour of the distribution facility. They manufacture most of their stuff in other places. I think their software is made right here in Tennessee. They use Host Engineering for that. I believe they're up in Greenville. And met Tim Homan and went into his office, and it's really cool. He's into kind of sci-fi type stuff, and his office had all kinds of space themed things, and it was like kind of like being on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. It was kind of dark in the walls that you see here and everything, and they had this this little sculpture that's behind Tim here. But overall, great experience. They actually gave me a little Click PLC back then because I was writing some things about them in a blog, and I guess they liked the blog pretty well. So they invited me down for a tour and gave me a little Click PLC, and I actually put it in a cabinet, and I was going to build a leak test system out of it, and it's still in the cabinet and have not finished the leak test system. But overall, it's pretty cool. This is the starter kit that I bought, $649, and it includes all the stuff that you see here. And it's only $649. So pretty good deal. And I'll show you a little bit of the unboxing of this, take the stuff out of the box and let you check that out.
Hi folks, and welcome to the unboxing of the Productivity 2000 Starter Kit, which I received last week, and I've actually taken apart previous to this, but I'm going to open it as if it were brand new so that you'll get a feeling for what it would be like to receive one of these. Comes in a nice little box here with a whole lot of information on the back, as most of the stuff in their website also has. Talks about the power of it and the communications and help and all kinds of fun things. The box itself kind of opens like this. Has a little flap. Opens up and has a nice little plastic cover on it, which is kind of neat. And it does come pre-assembled, even though the instructions are given for how to mount all the cards on the back plane and that sort of thing. This is the PLC itself. Pretty good looking little PLC, DIN rail mountable or panel mount. This comes with the 622 CPU, has a whole lot of different ports on it. Ethernet port, RS-232 or 422, USB port, 2 Ethernet ports here, plus a RS-232, like a 6-pin port that would be made for your typical almost phone type cable rather than RJ45s. And then here are the Ethernet ports. One of the Ethernet ports is for networking of I/O. The other one is for programming and exchange of, I suppose, information to a SCADA system, although unverified there. So that's the PLC. This is a trainer kit, so it has these little SIM switches on it, which I'm going to probably replace with something physical, put some real push buttons in there. It does have a couple of different plugs for the output card. The outputs are relay outputs. That's what they send you in the starter kit. And then you take these fun little plug-in blocks and you put them on the front like that, or like this. Gotta flip it the right way. And so you have the spring clamp type or the screw type. It does have some memory cards. I looked into this a little bit, and it is an optional to use a memory card. You can use it for data storage. You can use it to put your program on, and will automatically load the program when you boot up if you so instruct it. They also give you this fun little ZipLink remote unit here that's DIN rail mountable, and you can bring your I/O out to that. Not truly remote I/O, but you can use a cable. Again, little plastic housings and all this fun paperwork kind of came stacked inside of it, but I tucked it in the top. It's mostly got wiring instructions, things like that, a little bit of advertisements, talks about the cards that are on there. USB C type cable you can plug in and program with this. These little boxes, this is the I/O cable. So this plugs into the front of the CPU right here, right? And then goes out to this little ZipLink unit right here. So you can kind of remote your I/O that way. Does come with a power cord, so truly a starter kit. I haven't really looked into what all these are, but I believe they're just labels for the I/O, you know, in case you decide to hook them up to different things. There is a battery. Battery is, I believe, optional, but if you want to use things like the real-time clock, the program itself is backed up internally, so you don't have to have the battery to back up the program. But if you want to keep your real-time clock running, then you would use that. And these are just kind of space fillers. So that's pretty much everything associated with the productivity starter kit. I want to say list price on this thing was $600 and some odd, but it really gives you a good start into the productivity 2000 system. There are productivity 1000 and 3000 systems also, but I don't think they have starter kits. But since I have a customer, hi Chad, who is possibly going to use this for a project, I figured I'd get the starter kit and unbox it and check it out. And then I'll be going into a little bit of how the software works. So thanks for checking it out.
So that is the starter kit for the Productivity 2000. As I mentioned, I don't think they have a starter kit for any of the Productivity 1000 or 3000. There are differences between those platforms, but they're all fairly inexpensive. Every CPU in that collection is less than $1,000. So pretty good deal there compared to most other platforms. The software itself, so productivity software, I'm going to go ahead and show you a bit of that. And as I mentioned, it is free. So pretty good deal there. Pretty easy to use. I created this program and tested it on the simulator without looking at the help files at all. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over here and show you a bit of what the software looks like. As with all PLC software, the first thing that I had to do was go in and configure the hardware. And you can do this by reading the hardware directly if you want to. But I just, basically when it booted up, it said, "What do you have?" And I went and looked at the labels on everything and picked this P2-622 CPU here. And it had this little sim in the catalog, which I know, for instance, for Siemens, when I do the configuration, they don't even have their simulator module in the catalog, whereas these folks did. So 8 inputs for these little switches and things. And then there is this output card. And as I showed you, there are a couple different ways that you can connect to that. You can either place the terminal block with the terminals on it or the wire clamps, or you can use the little ZipLink extension. And of course, the one that I showed you also had the covers, the blank covers in these 2 slots. You don't configure those. They are just kind of left blank here. I think one of my next steps is I'm probably going to get a little bigger rack and get some regular, IO cards here, maybe a 16-point input and a 16-point output card, DC, possibly some analog, and maybe some high-speed counter inputs and pulse width modulation outputs for a project that I'm working on with Automation NTH, talking about doing some PWM and PID stuff. So that's a little bit of what the hardware looks like. And there's a lot more in here. You can see built right into the hardware configuration. There is for the GS drives, you can connect all those up using Ethernet IP or Modbus, lots of different ways. They have this Protos X, which is their remote IO platform. You can connect Ethernet IP things to it, and you can see different drives, things like that. There is a Nitro. I'm going to assume that the Nitro Ethernet IP is a valve bank, so that would be pretty neat too. And there's some IO-Link stuff, and IO-Link is becoming very popular nowadays. So lots of different things here. MQTT is something I've been interested in for a while. It's really an Industry 4.0 Internet of Things technology that uses a publish and subscribe method and can be a lot cleaner than using your OPC type communication. So very eager to see how all that works. I'm still learning about a lot of that, so I'll have to do another webinar and talk a little bit about how that works. Power over Ethernet, ProNet, which I'm going to assume is one of their proprietary communication methods, and even some mail account type stuff. So you can really do some Internet of Things type techniques here with the hardware configuration. And it does open as a separate window, and so I just dragged it off the screen and then closed it there. This is the little program that I wrote, and this is whenever I teach my classes, the program that I always start with. Speaking of which, this is very appropriate software for my multi-platform book, and I'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But everything about this is very generic. It's tag-based, so you build your tag database. You basically open it up like this, and you can see they gave you a bunch of tags already, and they have, the type of tag that it is, a Boolean or an analog or whatever. And you can see here, you can monitor a lot of things about the CPU itself. So you can see if the CPU is in run mode, you have an always off bit, first scan bit, pulses, right? 1 minute bit, 2 second bit, lots of things that you can use internally. In some ways, that's similar to Siemens. They have system bits that you can grab for always off or pulses and things like that. You do have a watchdog timer here, critical error, log bits. So if you have a major problem, and you can see those are integers, 16-bit integers, non-critical errors, last scan, you can look at your scan times. And as you scan down, even the clock, day of week and everything, I hadn't seen this before. So this saves you some time. You could build this into an array and move everything into it and display it on a touch screen. And we'll see if I can find the tags that I added. Module status bits for the modules that are installed. And here are the tags that I added. So one of the things I haven't figured out yet is if there's a way to segregate those tags and put them into groups. So for instance, in TI Portal, I can take all my HMI bits, HPBs and things like that, and I can put them all in a folder. And that way I just go to that folder, and the only bits that I can see would be those particular tags. So I haven't really looked into this very heavily yet. As I mentioned, I haven't done really anything outside of write this little simple program, and I did not use the book. So this shows just how easy this software is to use. Very easy to just create tags, go over here into this little organizer area over here and double click on anything, open it up and set it up. You can see here where they have these system IDs. This is kind of like the old DL platforms where they would have C bits, and the C bits are just internal bits. And I don't think you really even need to pay any attention to those. They just happen to land in order, but you can just assign a name and then bring up your tags by name. You can either enter them into this tag database like I did here. I entered all these ahead of time because I pretty well know what my tags are going to be when I write this particular piece of code. Or you can enter the tag and then I'm going to go ahead and close this. You can just enter the tag name and create it on the fly. So put a bit in here, right, from over here, drag something from this instruction table, right? Lots of different instructions in the instruction table, drag it over there, and then just type in a name, and it will prompt you to, do you want to save this name? I'd like to see whether I can group those names. Don't know that yet. Like I said, I'm just kind of winging it. You can create new tasks here. I can go in here and say new task and new, it's kind of like new routines. And for instance, Alan Bradley's periodic tasks, I would put those maybe run every second. Run when called would be the same thing as a routine. Run every second. If I wanted to run something at 100 milliseconds, I might need to create a clock or something and use that to call the routine and put a pulse in there to call the routine. But right now, they even have a folder just that is built for every second, great for data acquisition and that sort of thing. So you can see here, I wrote the program. This is the typical program that I have in most of my books, where you simply click on an auto push button. It sets auto mode. If you're in not in auto cycle, you can click this button and it will put you in manual mode and create tags for all those things, set and reset, similar to Siemens that way. Alan Bradley calls it latch and unlatch, but pretty much the same thing. This is a little different than some of my books. I've gone ahead and put the fault bit and the auto cycle bit in the cycle start permissive. And one of the reasons that I do this is to make sure that if you're already in auto cycle, you don't get this cycle start request bit. And I use this to blink lights and things for my stack light, or to just simulate that I'm in auto mode, but not in auto cycle. So I kind of use it for that purpose. The timers were a little confusing at first. Like I said, I just winged it and I grabbed one of their more complex timers, right? They have timed coils here. They have actual timers and counters, and some of the counters were very complicated. So this one here in particular, I dragged it over and it had so much stuff associated with it. I realized this is not exactly what I want. So I just grabbed the simple timer, which in most cases is what you need. And this is kind of what it looks like. To actually run this, so one of the things that they have that is really awesome, especially for free software, is this simulator. So if I click on the simulator, right, that's kind of choosing the CPU, and it says, warning, project needs to be transferred to the simulator. Proceed to file transfer project to CPU. So it's prompting you what to do there, and you can just say file, right, transfer project to CPU. And since you've got the simulator chosen here, and it says cannot receive retentive tags, of course, because the CPU is not a real CPU, so it doesn't have any permanent memory. If you want to continue without keeping the current tag values, you can. And so I'm transferring to the fake PLC here. And then you can see here, it's in stop mode. I'm going to put it in run. Danger, danger, right? You're in run mode. And then if you want to monitor this, all you have to do is go right here to the top of this routine and say monitor. And there you are. You are in the process of running. You can see my cycle stop start permissive is already made. And the way that you can tell that this is running is right here, right? That coil wouldn't have been on if I was not running. Same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and set this into auto mode. It's this easy. You can go down right here to toggle Boolean and it clicks it, right? And then you toggle it again, and Control T, which happens to be the same shortcut that use an Allen Bradley. Control T is how you toggle bits. So now I'm in auto mode, and you can see here I am ready to cycle start. So hit the cycle start button. You have to hold it for the full 3 seconds. There it is, counting up. And once it's done, you can see the cycle start permissive goes away, and that's because we're already in auto cycle. So this stops you from getting another auto cycle, or if I use this cycle start request to beep a horn or something like that, you won't get this cycle start request bit, so the horn won't buzz when you're already in auto cycle, which is useful if you're using your horn for things like faults and whatever. Again, this is something that I have in most of my books, explain how this little startup sequence goes. I'm going to go ahead and do a cycle stop request here. Toggle a Boolean saying we have a request for cycle stop, and we are still in auto cycle, right? And the request will be memorized. So I will let go of the push button. I do wish I had something that actually acts as a HMI. You can see here I've got a cycle stop request, and then all of a sudden the permissive happens, which is things like my cycle is complete, right? My whatever sequence that I had has reached a nice spot, so I'm able to stop. And so I'll toggle that bit, and I am right back out into auto cycle, right? Stop. And of course, get rid of the cycle start push button. Let's toggle that off. And we're back in auto cycle. Let's stop us again. I forgot to let go of my other button. That wouldn't happen in real life. There we go. And so since I had a cycle stop permissive, it reset. And that's just a little bit of a look at this software. Pretty easy to monitor, and you can go up in here into, I believe it was tools, options, which is pretty standard, and say, how do I want my ladder to look, right? So you can change colors of things here. Sorry for the cough. I'm a little bit under the weather here for the last few days. But in any case, yeah, these are where you can change colors, and, you know, do you want things to be centered? What do you want your bits to look like when they're on, and things like that. And before I went and modified this, for instance, these little red things were just green on the edges, and I couldn't really tell whether bits were on or off. And I would rather that these weren't, you know, giant squares or whatever, but that is what they are. And honestly, for free software, I think it's great. So that's a little bit of a look at the software. Again, free. So I think very appropriate to use with my multi-platform book, which has been out since about 2016. It was the first, was the second book I ever wrote overall, and then I re-released it in 2022. And this has all the generic things you would need to know about programming. It does not talk in particular about Productivity 2000. I mention a lot of Allen Bradley, Omron, Mitsubishi, and Siemens, but this would be very appropriate software to use with this book because it is tag-based and very easy to use, and I was able to use it just kind of winging it without looking at the instructions, you know, like most guys do, right? We all just start trying things without looking at the instructions, and that's what I did here. Hope you enjoyed this look at the Productivity 2000 platform. I have not used it yet. I have not downloaded to it. It looks like something that I'm going to be able to just set on a tabletop and connect up to either with the USB cable or with Ethernet. I have not done things like set the Ethernet address so that it will talk to other devices. Haven't tested it with any other Ethernet IP devices that I have around here, but I hope to do so soon. The next webinar is going to be the Saturday after Thanksgiving here in the US, which is November 25th. Hopefully I will be a little healthier get rid of this nagging cough that I've had. I do not know what the topic's going to be. I think I've mentioned previously, I do have a TIA Portal version 18 from Siemens, and I do have a little PLC. And if I can put that in a box in time, I may do that for the webinar. Not really sure. Or if anybody who's watching this wants to be a guest on one of these webinars, I do these again every 2 to 3 weeks. Love to have guests. I haven't had one for several months, but love to interview people and talk about what they're doing as well as what I'm doing. So hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.